Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Brandon. Welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find latest album reviews. You can find our band interviews, and you can find other music-related content on the channel. If you are checking out this review, thank you so much for checking this out. I really do appreciate it. I try to work really hard at getting all of the music content I possibly can out to you guys. I've been posting interviews 3 days a week at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so check those out if you are so inclined to. I've been doing a lot of album and EP reviews as of recently. This one will be a double feature. I'll be posting one of Good Tiger's latest record, which you should also check out. Fantastic record too. Go give that a listen. I'll also be doing Forcer's newest record that's coming out this Friday, and I'll be doing some streaming on Twitch of some other records. So check that out. I'll leave a link to the Twitch channel in the description. But tonight we're gonna be talking about Slaves' newest record, To Better Days. So for those who aren't familiar with the band, Slaves is a band from California. They've gone through a ton of lineup changes, but I did an interview with Weston and my homeboy Zach, and this was like on their headliner, I believe, and this was their first tour with Matt, their newest vocalist, which I was very stoked on. He performs super well live. He was actually sick the night I saw him play, and he still killed it, so I was very excited to listen to this record. Also, he's a local person to my area. He kind of he was born here in like Jersey's PA area, so you know, that is definitely cool, and I wanted to represent that as well, especially considering his family came out to the show at Voltage Lounge. So shout outs to Matt's family. But I was very excited about this record from the get-go. Like I said, Matt's a super talented vocalist, and if you haven't heard of him, he was on The Voice. I believe he was on Team Adam, which was very cool. So I am excited to go through this record with you guys, give you my thoughts and opinions on it, go through some pros and cons, and then finish it out with an overall rating. So the first track is To Better Days, the title track, the intro track, all of the above. This one has a cool kind of electronic feel to it. I love that they sampled the vocals from Prayers in this song. I think it's a cool, like, you know, sort of notable thing that I feel like they just took cues from different portions of the record and really made it, you know, more incorporative and thought out and thoughtful, and I really do appreciate that. And it perfectly leads into the next track, which I just talked about, Prayers. This is the first real kind of official track off the record, and it has this really groovy, bouncy kind of feel to it. It's got a little bit of a pop vibe to it as well. Matt's vocals definitely shine on a track like this. He shows off his vocal range, and it's just ranging from these really buttery falsettos to some like really kind of like gritty, powerful vocals. He kind of meshes the gambit between what I like about JC, their previous vocalist, which I won't name because who gives a shit, but you know, he does kind of find that mesh between both, and I think that even in certain places, he's definitely better. He just really kind of flows with the song. He's really got these great like ad libs, some great runs, especially in this track in particular. This track is damn catchy. I love that they really bring out a lot of their pop roots. I know a lot of the band specifically listens to a lot of pop music, I would assume, and they show off a lot of their prowess in that sort of area as well, while still kind of having that sort of heavy kind of rock post-hardcore sort of feel to it. Great overall track. I would say that this one I recommend to new listeners, for people who haven't checked out Slaves before. I know that they're going to go through a name change in the new year, I believe, and so I would totally recommend this song to people if you are a first-time listener. So we're going to move into track number 3, which is Witch Hunt. I really dig the drumming on this track from Zach. I think he does a fantastic job of not only playing super clean, which again, I think he further states that playing live, he's an incredibly clean drummer playing live. But I love that he adds these like extra little flares throughout. I think it's, mostly can be heard in the verses portion of this track. But I just really feel like he just gears his drumming to be not like over the top, but just sits right in the pocket. And I think, obviously some of the influences that he has mentioned in previous interviews that I've done with him, I feel like a lot of those artists really hit the pocket super well. And he is definitely one of those people that I think of in the top of my head that really have great pocket awareness. So definitely killer track from Zach. But also I really loved the harmonies in this track as well. I would say more specifically in the chorus, Matt does again another killer job on this track as well. I think this one's a little bit more subtle in its approach in terms of his vocal prowess, but does a great job. I also think that the guitar riffs, not only from Felipe but also Weston, I think are really well executed. Definitely an underrated sort of like guitar track, I'd say, on this record particularly. And I also feel like this one has kind of that vintage, Slave sound. Like if you are familiar with their music and you've been listening to them for a while, this one would be one I'd recommend to you to listen to, because it does have that classic sort of Slaves feel to it, and again, really well-rounded track. So we're gonna move into track number 4, which is Talk to a Friend. This one is, I feel like, when the album really hits its stride. I really appreciate this sort of more melodic approach to this song. It does have a kind of nice ebb and flow to it. Yet another track that I think really Zach kills it on. There's a few tracks that I feel like his drum work will be, I wouldn't say overlooked, but it's definitely not as noticed. And, I try to listen to these records as many times as I possibly can, and I feel like every time that I came back to a track like this, as well as like Witch Hunt as well, I really focused on different kind of portions of the song, and I really feel like that Zach's drumming, and particularly on this one, really hits home. I think it also just kind of, has those like stronger notes and stronger hit points when, the songs kind of hit those longer strides or those big choruses. It really does ride that fine line between those 2 points. I also feel like, as I mentioned earlier, he just doesn't overplay, but he really adds enough style that makes his own. You hear a little bit of like paradiddles, you hear some like, some hi-hat movement. It's just really solid, and I think that, again, he doesn't overplay, but just kind of his accents, the way that he adds into certain portions of the song, I think it really keeps it interesting from a reviewer's perspective, and I also feel like from a listener's perspective, it would be very cool. Really strong chorus. I felt like this one was definitely one of the stronger ones off the record, and I feel like they really honed their sound in a track like this. This was one that I felt like as a standalone single it works, but I think it fits that much better in this record, and kind of, towards the, I would say, the meat of the record for sure. So we're gonna move into track number 5, which is Eye Opener. I love how this is just like a forward bass track. I think he does a really great job of separating it from a lot of the other tracks off this record. That would be kind of one critique that I have about it, is that sometimes the songs get a little muddled, just because they have, similar guitar tones, they have similar, vibes overall, and sometimes that can be a little bit collectivated, and I don't even know if that's a word. I made up a word, but I think that collectively, some songs can kind of get lost in that sort of feel. But getting back to the track itself, I love the electronic elements in this track as well. Definitely underrated, and I feel like it fills in the missing gaps that I was looking forward to in this track in particular, just because there's not too much going on, and the empty space is just filled with some really cool, like either like vocal like runs or some like really kind of interesting like keys or synth or some pads. It really works to fill those gaps, and I think it's what makes the song really well done. And also another really extremely solid chorus. I feel like this one in particular will give you stuck in your head, and I really enjoy that. I also love Matt's range in this track. I think he does a really great job of not only showing off of his skills as a vocalist, but also showing the amount of conviction that he has in these tracks. And that is one thing that I think sold me on Matt, was just the way that he sings with conviction. It's not that he's just trying to be like, oh, I'm trying to oversing all of this, I'm trying to be, I'm just trying to just wail on a track. It does feel like his voice is trying to sit in that spot where it works the best, and if he can do some cool vocal run, he'll do it. It's not like too much or too little. I think it just hits that nice stride point, as I had mentioned earlier. So we're going to move into track number 6, which is Bury a Lie. If you're looking for a song, again, much like Prayers, I would say, or Witch Hunt, if you're looking for a track that feels very much old school Slaves, I would also consider this one as being one of those tracks as well. And I definitely feel like this was one of the first ones that I felt like Matt really just took his vocal styling to that next level and really pushed Slaves to, I think, a better place and a better position overall, because I was a little bit wary when Matt joined. Not that I don't think he's a good vocalist, not that I don't think he's very talented. It's just kind of interesting whenever you have a band and they have a vocalist for a couple records, and they're so ingrained in how they kind of formulate songs, how they like arrange the melodies, and I didn't feel like they really skipped a beat when Matt joined the band. And with a track like this, it really solidifies that for me, as that he fits in with this band so well that they don't really have to change too much to really put him in a good song. I love the way that he kind of belts out these some sort of larger notes, but also knows to have those moments of reservation where, he can take it back a little bit and make it more interesting, and take it from that approach rather than to just go hard all the time, 24/7. He can really hone it in on the melodic patterns and the arrangement and do what sees fit. And I think that as a vocalist, you can't expect anything else or anything better. And I think a track like this highlights that. I also think instrumentally, it's definitely one of the more heavier tracks. So if you are looking more towards the like post-hardcore kind of rock route, I would definitely check this one. This one is definitely amongst the heavier tracks, and ironically enough, we'll get into the next track. But overall, well executed track, one that I totally recommend all of you to go listen to. So again, no pun intended, track number 7, Heavier. This was the first one, obviously, like most people, this was the first track that we heard Matt on, and I will say, upon first listen and first review of this song, I wasn't really sold on it. Like, in particular, not Matt itself, but I don't know, maybe it just didn't hit me the way that I imagined it to, just because, JC's such a powerful vocalist, and, again, as I mentioned earlier in the review, he's got some pretty big shoes to fill. You might not like him personally, but I think vocally, anytime he leaves a band, there's a pretty big hole in what they do. And so I felt like Matt didn't really fit well in that current time and that current listening moment. But now, reflecting back on it, I know that was personally, I think, a lapse in judgment, because he does definitely fill these roles. And then going back and listening to this track with new ears and a new perspective, I think this is one of the best tracks off the record. I think he really, again, hits those notes of conviction, those notes of power, and this track really utilizes that in a really beautiful way, especially when that chorus hits. It really hits you in the soul. And I think Matt put a lot of heart and soul into not only this record, but I think just the way that he sings, because like I said, it's really big shoes to fill. And for him to do something so well done and so well executed vocally, I think he hit a grand slam. I know with a lot of people it may be mixed, and I definitely like to know what you think down below, but I really felt like after this song, and after I heard it for the second time with after knowing and seeing him live, I knew that Slaves was in capable hands with Matt for sure. I think that this one in particular thinks I think it fits better in the context of this record. Having Bury a Lie, just being on the high of that, and then following it up with Heavier, I think that is really well done. And I think the arrangement of the songs on the song track list, I think, was really well done. So we're gonna move into track number 8, which is Footprints. This was one that I was kind of expecting and hoping for, because the majority of the singles prior to this and prior to the release, obviously, were more aggressive, more in that post-hardcore kind of rock direction, as I had mentioned prior. And having a softer song, I think, allows Matt to show off more of his vulnerable side, as well as just kind of playing to more of the subtleties of the instrumentation. As I mentioned, Slaves is no stranger to kind of slower songs. There's definitely been songs in previous works where that has been the case, but Matt just has an interesting way of doing vocals, and again, I know I just sound super enamored by Matt right now, but honestly, he's a great vocalist, and I think I'm just enamored by the fact that they found somebody that fit Slaves so well. I also think that his falsetto work is super nice. It has this like real great rasp to it, and also he just can clean it up super well too, which I think is super impressive. And this one really just shows off his just more softer side, and I think it's really appreciative, especially considering after Bury a Lie and Heavier, it was cool to hear something from maybe a different perspective. So we're moving to track number 9, which is Cursed. Really love the melodies in this track. The lead guitar work from Weston really sticks out to me the most. There's definitely other tracks that I feel like the lead guitar work is really well done, but I think this one is top notch for sure. It's definitely the main staple of the song. It's the main melody, obviously, and I think that one thing that I have to say about this track is that I wasn't also sold on this one, kind of very similar to Heavier, but as I've listened to it more and more, I think it's grown on me a ton. It's one that I know that they've just released a music video for recently, and I think that the reason why I enjoy this one a lot is just the subtle nature of the instrumentation, kind of very similar to the previous track, which is Footprints. I think they're just a little bit more nuanced. There's some really cool drum fills, from Zach, but also vocally, I think it's very interesting in that regard too. I think that Matt definitely hits more of those kind of higher notes, more of that falsetto, that kind of smooth, subtle vocals, and I really appreciate that. So we're going to move into track number 10, which is Wasting My Youth. This one is another single that has been released. I think they released like 6 singles, I believe, and this one has a really cool kind of sax sample pad kind of thing that they use in the verse. The chorus is super strong in this track as well. I liked one quality about this track, which was the kind of vocal tuning that they have going on it in the second verse. They do this kind of like lowered, like almost bassed timbre sort of vocal part, and then also Matt with his normal register. I thought that was really well executed. I know a lot of pop artists do it. I know personally Bill Murray does it, so to hear that incorporated, I thought that was very interesting, and I think it was a good stylistic choice. I think overall it was really solid. Personally, I think this one's my least favorite of the singles, not by much. I think it is still a very well executed track, but I think overall in the confines of the record, this one's personally one of my least favorites. So we're going to move it into track number 11, which is Clean Again. This one also took me by surprise. It has a very R&B soul feel to it, which I really dig a lot, and I think that Matt's voice is really allocated to something like that. Again, he's got the big powerful notes, but sometimes the R&B soul feel just really hits in that right way. It's only 1 minute and 30 seconds long, give or take, and I was kind of looking forward to more. I really would love to hear kind of a fuller version of this one, or a song, very similar to this one, maybe in a next record. I think that would be really cool, and I think Matt's vocals, again, really solid. I think this one, more particularly in a lot of the slower songs, I think he really does a great job of those like ad-lib runs. Oof, this one, Chef's kiss, baby. Love this one. So we're gonna move into track number 12, which is Secrets. This one has a pop vibe to it and sound to it, and I do feel like it would fit well on radio. There's another track that after this one that I feel like also has kind of a radio feel to it. This one has probably some of my favorite guitar work. I think Felipe and Weston do a really great job on the guitars, not only from the rhythm portion of the song, but also the lead work as well. Really great way to bring in a lot of energy to the track for sure. Overall, I don't think there's really anything extra to write home about it, but I think the guitar work is really well executed. So we're going to move into the last track number 13, Like I Do. This one was really good. I love the hooks in this track. I think I listened to this one like last week, right before the album dropped, and before I got the stream. Shout outs to Adam Splitter for sending that over. But this one, the hooks are absolutely infectious, especially in the chorus. I love what Matt was doing on this one. Again, it's not anything out of the park, but I think just the melodies of it make it really well executed. I could definitely, again, see this one being on the radio. More so, I'd say XM radio, because he does say, the F word, which I'm not going to say because I'll probably get demonetized. Shouts to YouTube. But this one, really enjoyed this one. It's a little bit softer, but I think overall it's a well executed track. So some pros and cons that I have about the record. Pros: Mac Andrews. I don't know what more I have to tell you. I think he is a great fit. I know I've been just oohing and awing over Matt, but I really do feel like his voice fits what Slaves was missing in just the best way possible, and I think that they did a great job of kind of incorporating that rock feel, post-hardcore feel, and just some pop intuition into a really well executed, catchy record. And it just has hooks for days. It's not the most impressive writing stuff, it's not some Dream Theater shit or whatever, but I think that the songwriting, the way that it kind of infuses pop elements into a record, I think is really well done. And if you are a fan of older stuff, there's definitely elements of that, but I feel like if you are more radio friendly, you like more pop stuff, you'll definitely dig something like this. But again, they kind of skirt that line between like post-hardcore rock and like pop-ish style music. So definitely one you should go give a listen to. Some cons that I have about it, as I mentioned earlier, I feel like some of the songs start to blend together. I think that's kind of a play off of what I had just mentioned earlier in the pros. They do have songs that feel, after many listens, I felt like there were certain songs that I got confused for other ones, and they do have that sort of similar vibe. So if you do feel like you might get tired of something like that, that is a possibility. But overall, I think there is a little bit of variation between all of them that would make it more interesting. Also, as I mentioned, I loved Clean Again. I'd love to hear more kind of R&B, soul-inspired songs. So it's not necessarily a con. It maybe more so a want at this point. But hopefully they'll kind of incorporate that sort of vibe into a future release. But my overall rating for Slaves to Better Days, I'm going to be giving it a 9.4 out of 10. I think it is one that you should definitely go check out if you're a fan of, again, more radio-friendly pop music, or just pop music in general, or just pop-inspired music. I think this is one that you should go give a listen to. If you're a fan of kind of like rock, post-hardcore, there's definitely songs in there for you. If you like both of those things that I just mentioned, then this is definitely the record for you. And again, I think if you were really doubting whether or not Slaves was going to still be around, I hate to admit it to you guys, any of the haters out there, I feel like they're going to be around for a lot longer, and I think that they really came up with a great record with this one, but I think I'm even more stoked for the future of Slaves, going further. So let me know in the comments what you think about the record. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'd love to know your thoughts on it, your opinions, what you think about it. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know below. If you enjoyed this content, make sure to like, share, subscribe. It goes a long way. I'm working my tail off to get you the best content I possibly can out there. And if you have any other album recommendations, feel free to let me know on Twitch when I go live, or you can let me know in the comments below as well. I'll definitely check those out. And as well as that, my name is Brandon. We hope you got your fix, and we'll be talking with you soon. Peace.